The very first thing I'd like to start with this evening actually would be to ask for everyone to join me and join the consortium in a moment of silence. We lost someone very important to, I'm going to get choked up, to a lot of our team this past weekend. Jerome Lewis, who headed up the Institute for Public Administration, which has been, an absolute pillar of support for us and many other public policy initiatives over the years, passed away this past weekend, and we're feeling that very heavily. But we know that the type of work we're doing tonight is exactly the type of work that he made sort of the master work of his life. So if you all could just join me in a moment of silence for Dr. Lewis. Okay, thank you. We also have a special guest with us this evening. Our governor, Matt Meyer, was able to join us at the beginning of our meeting, and I guess we would like to pass the mic to you, Governor. Thank you for joining. You have one right next to you. You can use that one. Thank you.
Great. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and Mr. Chairman. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. I'm Governor Meyer. I came here first and foremost simply to offer my thanks on behalf of Delaware and Delawareans for all of your work, to Senator Lockman, to Matt Dunn, to Representative Chakwocha, and each and every member of this Redding Consortium, to all the superintendents who took their time, to the former governor and now mayor. Thank you, John Carney, for your tremendous investment in this effort. To each and every one of our cabinet secretaries who are here tonight, as well as all the community members who have invested so much time and effort into the future of our children. I realize there are many divergent opinions and perspectives in this room. People feel very passionately about the different directions that education can take for this city, for this county, and for this state. And I first and foremost just wanted to say thank you for all of your engagement, your tremendous amount of time. One of my foremost responsibilities as your governor is to make sure that your efforts over, I believe it's 5 years, are not for naught. That whatever decision is made here tonight, that we all work together to execute in a way that benefits children in this city, in the greater Wilmington area and across our county and state for truly generations to come. I come here not just as your governor, but also as a former Brandywine School District student who in 3rd grade went to Shipley School, the old Shipley School that since is closed down, and was bused into Harlan following a court decision at the outset of the district, the district organization that we have now. And today, I'm a Brandywine School District parent. So I see this from multiple perspectives, also as someone who was a teacher. I really want people in this room tonight and going forward to think big about the changes that we need to make. The current situation is not sustainable. I understand tonight in this meeting, both in person and virtually, are likely people who are pretty happy with the school that their child goes to. I'm pretty happy, quite frankly, with the 2 schools that my children go to. But 42% of students in our state who are proficient in language arts last year, that's over 50% of kids who are not proficient, is not sustainable. It's no way to build our community or our state. 31% of students who are proficient in math, that's over 2/3 of students who are not doing math on grade level, is not sustainable for our city, our county, or our state. I have a quote on my wall in my office from Nelson Mandela that says, "May your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears." Your hopes and not your fears. Whichever option comes out of tonight as the most voted upon, the winning option, I think it can be successful or unsuccessful based on what we do coming from here to make sure that we're getting the resources where they are most needed for our kid. I've made clear to many of you what I believe is the best path forward. I believe if we have a single consolidated district in northern Newcastle County, that will best enable us to get resources to our classrooms and our kids in a way that benefits every family across Wilmington, across our county, and across our state. We need to make sure, though, however we behave tonight, that going forward, we do the additional work. Ultimately, as a teacher, I know many people in here have had experience as classroom teachers. The magic of a classroom can happen no matter what decision comes out of tonight. We have to make sure we provide the appropriate supports to make sure that that happens. So think big tonight and just know that our team is here to make sure we execute for the people of this city, of Newcastle County, and our state going forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Governor. Thank you for joining us. So I believe our next step is to take a roll call so we know who is currently present in the room. And I'll just walk quickly through what folks can expect for the rest of the evening. After we go do the roll call so we know who is here, we are going to move directly into the agenda item of hearing from Dr. Drew Atchison with AIR to walk us through the financial data overview. And then we're going to, I guess, sort of break in that content for public comment. So we've spent a couple weeks doing a lot of listening, and we have a little more to do, I think, before we get into deliberation and ultimately taking a vote tonight on which model we intend to develop a plan for. So with that, Haley, you're going to go ahead and take that roll call. All right, I'm going to hand it over to Haley.
Aaron Bass, Ayana Khan, Simone Silver, Danielle Woods, Superintendent Deirdre Joyner, Superintendent Darrell Green, Senator Buxton.
Present.
He said present online, I believe. Okay.
Yes, present online.
Jeff Menzer, Jennifer Tompkins, Mayor John Carney, Superintendent Joe Jones, Kendra Brown, Superintendent Lisa Lawson, Margie Lopez Waite,
Present.
Maria Matos,
Present.
Councilwoman Maria Cabrera,
Present.
Matt Den, Representative Nnamdi Chukwucha, Ray Jones Avery, Ray Fitzgerald, Stephanie Ingram, Teron Williams, Tika Hartsock, Senator Tizzy Lockman. Okay. We have 21 present, so that is 22 quorum. No, 22.
Do we have Drew? Is he on? Great. As all the consortium members know, we had asked AIR to prepare a report for us, outlining some of the questions regarding the finances relating to the different options that we are looking at tonight. We all got a copy of that report last Thursday, and it was distributed to all the consortium members and posted online. But we have Drew Atchison, who's one of the authors of the report here tonight, who's going to quickly walk us through some of the highlights. I suspect most of us have read it and is also available to answer questions from consortium members. Drew, you're on.
All right, thank you. Let's see if I can get this to work. All right, can you see the slides?
Yes.
Great, thank you. All right, so I'm Drew Atchison. Again, the role that I'm playing here was to provide some information about how district consolidation might affect the costs and cost savings through different options for consolidating districts around Wilmington. So this was a fairly high level analysis, but I think the implications are fairly clear, and I'll walk through a few of the analyses that we did. So first, just going over the scope of work that we were asked to do. The report components included a literature review examining costs of consolidation found in prior research, an analysis of staffing levels and spending in relation to district size in Delaware. We conducted a few focused analyses on deferred maintenance and capital improvement costs within Wilmington for the schools within Wilmington. We did a focused analysis on transportation and one on technology platform spending to see whether there could be any sort of economies of scale or cost savings in relation to these factors. We were also asked to conduct a review of previous calculations made by the Office of the Comptroller General that looked at the cost of leveling up salaries. So this is under the assumption that under scenarios of consolidation, salaries within each district would have to increase to the highest salary among the districts that are consolidated. We also looked at some local funding spending scenarios for Christina's portion of Wilmington, which were also a review of previously published estimates from this committee. So quickly, I'll walk through a few of the findings. The literature review is fairly conclusive that district consolidation is likely to generate cost savings in the case of very small districts. So generally, these districts are defined as having fewer than 2,000 students. So in very small districts, there are clear efficiency gains in consolidation, but obviously each of the districts that we're talking about is already larger than 2,000 students. So the second point here is that district consolidation is unlikely to save costs when consolidating already large districts. So these are the districts that we're talking about. So from the literature review, there was not evidence that consolidation would save costs, and in some cases, consolidation actually might increase costs. I'm talking right now. Okay. So in relation to the different components of the report, here are some findings for staffing and spending. We found no clear change in cost. For the cost of leveling up salaries, that is a clear case where costs will increase, but our finding was that it would not increase as much as the OCG original estimates, but that is one of the major cases where there will be increases in costs. In relation to our analysis of technology platform spending, we did identify this as an area where there could be potential efficiency gains, but the cost savings are likely limited because technology platforms are a relatively small share of overall spending in districts. In addition, we found that most technology platforms are purchased through variable pricing agreements, where the technology platforms are purchased on a licensing basis. So for each license, you'll have to pay an additional cost or the number of students that are in a district. Yeah, I can hear Ayana Khan's voice here. Thank you. So again, these variable costs are not likely to change when districts consolidate because it's based on the number of students or number of staff, which we assume will not change in consolidated districts relative to the districts that are currently existing. So there could be potential gains in efficiency for technology platforms, but those will be relatively small. For transportation, we found no clear change in costs. There could be some gains in administrative efficiency, but there also could be scenarios where students are bused further from their home to schools that are farther away, so that would increase costs. So there's kind of competing pressures of costs on transportation. So we found no clear change in cost for transportation. For deferred maintenance and capital improvement, as well as the local funding and spending scenario for Christina. These issues would not change overall costs, but it would potentially change which districts pay for the cost. So when you consolidate districts, some buildings have high deferred maintenance costs, but that overall cost is not going to change, but who has to pay the cost of that could change. And lastly, as with any major policy initiative, there's going to be some initial planning and coordination costs, and those will be related to the scale of the initiative. So again, here we have an overall summary across the scenarios. So I want to reiterate that the changes in costs are relatively small. The overall budget in the 4 northern Newcastle districts is about $1.3 billion. The cost projections under the most costly scenario are around or under $20 million. So that's about 1.5% of the combined budget. To put this into context of something you might be familiar with, yearly inflation of costs is generally in the 2% to 3% range. So we're talking about less than the costs that might be incurred through yearly inflation from these scenarios. So overall costs are going to be small, but the costs will tend to be in the positive direction, not in the negative direction. And the costs will be relative to the scale of the policy being considered. So scenario 1, the northern Newcastle scenario where all 4 districts are being combined, the cost of the leveling up salaries is really the driver of costs across these scenarios. That's going to be larger in scenario 1 than scenario 2, and scenario 2 is going to be larger than scenario 3. So when you think about the scope of these scenarios, we're generally talking about small increases in costs, and those small increases will be relative to the scope, which means they'll be larger in scenario 1 and decreasing as we move to scenario 3. So our main conclusion is that cost implications are not huge, but there's not going to be major cost efficiencies, which I think some people might expect in these district consolidation scenarios. So when you're making your decisions, our recommendation would be to not focus on cost as a major factor for making your decisions, but focus on the other things that might be important. And there might be strong reasons for these different scenarios, but cost is not going to be a huge driver of differences among these scenarios. And I will stop there.
Do any consortium members have any questions for Drew? Mayor Carney does. Do we have a mic for him?
What were the costs of the other 2 options?
Generally, the scenario 2 was going to be about half of scenario 1. So in the ballpark of around $10 million. And scenario 3 would be relatively limited in terms of the expected change in cost.
Scenario 3 is the river plan.
Yes.
Any other questions for Drew?
It looks like Eric online might have a question.
Senator Buxton, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. A question is, you'd mentioned the comptroller's office. Was that the office that initially expressed or demonstrated that this would be more costly? That was the original thinking, and that has since changed based on your analysis? And my question, I guess, is where did they get it wrong? I don't mean wrong, but how did their numbers conflict?
Yeah, I want to iterate that when I reviewed their analysis, I had no problems with the approach of their analysis. The approach made sense and was logical. Really, the issues were in the underlying data, where as so their approach was to look at salaries at each step for each different staff type. And so across the 4 districts, in scenario 1, for example, whichever district had the highest salary at a given step and staff type, all other districts would have to be leveled up to that salary at that step and staff type. The issue in the underlying data was that there was not a clear pattern of increases across the steps that you would expect. Obviously, in a salary schedule, as you move up in step, salaries go up. That's not what the underlying data showed all the time. I think the underlying data potentially didn't account for part-time staff. So, for example, if you're in a step that's making $80,000 and you only work a quarter time, you might be only making $20,000. If that $20,000 is represented in that step without being adjusted, that's going to pull down that average really far. And so when you level up that very low average, that's going to overestimate the cost of leveling up because the data didn't account appropriately for part-time staff. So I think there's some underlying data issues that made those estimates of leveling up staff salaries quite a bit too high in the original analysis.
Margie Lopez-Waite, did you have a question also?
Am I unmuted now?
Yes, you're
Hello?
unmuted.
Okay. Yeah, chat was disabled and we weren't able to unmute ourselves. But so Drew, the one thing that the increase in salaries assumes that we're not already addressing this inequity in our salary schedules. Like it just assumes that we're just going to continue to move forward with these inequities in salaries, and therefore there's going to be an increase because we're going to have to level it out. But we're already on the path to address that. So isn't that assumption inaccurate?
I'm not sure. My understanding is that districts would still have the option to go above and beyond what the state is recommending in terms of salaries. So I think it would depend on that. But my charge in this analysis was really just to review the OCG estimates and provide my insight on whether they were appropriate or not.
That's fair, Drew. I do think though that we need to at least acknowledge the fact that as a state, we recognize the inequity in our salaries from district to district, and that's being addressed. So I think we need to take that into account when we look at your analysis.
Any other questions from consortium members for Drew? Thank you, Drew.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Right.
Good evening, everyone. I have a question, Drew, about the projected gap based on property taxes in the Christina School District. Was what property tax rates were used in the calculation? Were they the new reassessments or the whatever what was the current, the old ones? I mean, I know it's a lot of controversy around it, but there's a big difference in the tax assessment rate. So that's my question.
Yeah, I did not change the estimates that were published in February. So they were the old rates. The report notes that the rates have changed, and so Christina is probably taking in more revenue currently than what was projected because of the difference in commercial and residential tax rates. I think the challenge is that it's hard to know what it will look like moving forward still, right? So there's still a lot of changes up in the air in terms of how property tax rates will look moving forward. in the report. I also noted that not only the property tax rates could change moving forward, but also the state funding formula could change moving forward. So to the extent that the state funding formula provides more support to high need students, then that gap between local, the needed local revenue and the needed local funding might shrink as well. So if the district receives more state funding to support the high need students within Christina, that might mean that less local funding is needed to support those students. So there's a lot of things that I think are in flux at the moment in terms of that analysis. And I didn't have sufficient information to provide numbers to how that might change in the future.
And Drew, right on the heels of that, quick question. I know that the Christina local spending piece was about 18 million. Was there any calculation of the Colonial portion and whether there was going to be added costs there for the local, on the local side?
We did not look at Colonial's portion, no.
Any other questions from consortium members? Mayor?
It's more an observation, which is however that falls out could have an impact on the differential between Christina and the districts that would absorb parts of the city of Wilmington.
Kendra Brown. I know we talked about leveling up salaries. Just one question. Is admin included in the 18 plus million for scenario one?
I had a hard time hearing that question. Is admin included in which?
Yes, is admin included in scenario one, leveling up salaries?
Yes, administrators were included in those leveling up of salaries estimates.
Is that the administrators for all 4 districts?
Yes, for scenario one, it assumes all 4 districts are consolidating, and so it would level up to the highest level of salary among the 4 districts. For scenario 2, it was only between Red Clay and Brandywine, so it would level up to the highest among those 2 districts.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions from consortium members? Great. Thank you, Drew.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so we are now moving into the public comment portion of our meeting. I believe the team maybe has some instructions for the public comment period. Oh, no, we have our Deputy Attorney General with us, Caroline McDonough, and she's going to give us the ground rules for public comment.
Hi all. So public comment will happen first for those in the room who wish to give public comment. Those who would like to give public comment up at the podium may do so and start by lining up by the stairs over by the podium. But those who wish to remain in their seats can stay there, and we will bring mics to you to provide public comment. After everyone in the room who has given public comment is finished, we will move to online, and I believe that Haley or Elena will be asking those on the Zoom to write their name in the chat or raise their hand if they wish to give public comment. But we will start with those in the room first. I believe the time limit is 2 minutes. The time limit is 2 minutes for all individuals in the room who wish to give public comment in the interest of time. Because there are so many people interested in giving public comment, we will be limiting all comments to 2 minutes, regardless of whether you represent yourself in your personal capacity or represent an organization. So those who wish to give public comment in the room who do not wish to go to the podium may raise their hands behind me, and we will take it from there. Oh yes, I'm sorry. There is a sign-up sheet, and I will start with the sign-up sheet. That's a better place to begin. The first person listed on here is Christopher Scott.
Hear me okay? Perfect. Thank you, everyone. I'd like to say I'm very disturbed by what I've seen so far. I went to the Brandywine School District meeting on the 8th with an open mind, hoping to learn more information about this process than what I could find on your website. There was no information available, right? The report hadn't come out yet. Some information is later posted on the 12th, and we did receive the report last Friday. But to say that we have had a chance for public comments before the report was out, before the data was available, is a farce. Then I was looking, when can I come to this meeting? I know that it's on the 16th. When and where will it be? The location not posted until yesterday afternoon, and then the room changed again. So again, it really feels as a parent that someone's pulling a fast one. I really think that we have not had enough time to reflect on this and discuss it as a community. I think that the data that has been provided shows quite clearly there is no advantage whatsoever to redistricting. The only model that makes any kind of sense is the red clay Brandywine model. I think it is profoundly unfair to take $172 million and and delayed deferred maintenance from red clay and foist it onto anybody else. I really think that we need to go back to the drawing board and find a different model. Moreover, none of these proposals affect any of the underlying drivers in the city. A child that goes to bed hungry will do poorly in school regardless of what district they are in. So feed the children, provide job training, help our community, but do not drag down functioning districts with bad policy. Thank you.
Thank you. I realize I should list the next few people so that you don't have to take lots of time. The next few people who signed up, Will Pollins, and you can just, if you're okay giving comment at the podium, that's great. If you prefer to stay at your seat, please just raise your hand. Will Pollins, Dr. O, Kevin Kelly, Trippy Congo, Dr. Chris Curry. So if you wish to give public comment and I read your name, please go ahead and line up. Thank you.
Now? Okay. I'm Will Pollins. I'm a parent of two graduates of Concord High School and Brandywine School District. And I came to the October 28th meeting of this consortium, and I was taken aback by the social issues that were brought up at that meeting. However, when I went home, I thought about it and I said, wait a minute. Why are we doing redistricting and not addressing the problems at the social level, these social drivers? Kids are scared to go to school. Provide some safety ambassadors, create jobs for safety ambassadors to go to be part of the corridor for going to schools in the morning and afternoon. My real problem is with the city and state governance. We really need to put money into investing in our kids. That's the main goal. We need to invest in our kids and provide more robust pre-K services. These kids should be able to read somewhat by the time they get to kindergarten. They should be able to do some math by the time they get to kindergarten. My kids, I focused on education. There's an app called starfall.com. I put my son on it at 3.5 years old, and by kindergarten, he was reading at 2nd or 3rd grade level. I mean, these are some of the things that we have to do as parents. Again, I implore that you choose the least restrictive, disruptive plan of the Brandywine and red clay and invest in our kids. That's my main point. Just invest in the kids and let's get these social drivers taken care of. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Laretha Odumasu, and I am the founding director of the Office of Educational Advocacy established by the Wilmington City Council. I'm standing here with Ms. Lynn Howard, who is representing the Wilmington Center for Education, Equity, and Policy. We are standing here as a collaborative team speaking on behalf of the children of Wilmington City. We believe unabashedly that all students in the city of Wilmington need to be served in one school district under one governing body. Decades of research has already demonstrated that the current fragmented structure of school districts in the city of Wilmington is not working. Our students are not receiving the education they need to be successful. Continuing a fragmented structure in the city of any sort will lead to continued failure. Our students should not and cannot afford to be the victims of systems that do not serve them. We believe that all education decision-making and in all education decision-making, children must come first. As advocates speaking for students of Wilmington City, it is our duty to speak on their behalf. Due to this belief, we stand in collaborative agreement of two things. One, the Northern Newcastle County Consolidated District should be chosen tonight as this places all city students in one district and provides adequate resources to support them. And two, the design of the new district must prioritize city students. Furthermore, the city of Wilmington must have a seat at the table in the design and implementation process from the beginning to the end and to ensure adequate representation. Our students deserve a voice, and we are here to provide it. Thank you.
So I have Kevin Kelly's going out, Trippi Congo, Dr. Chris Curry, Jason Heller. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Governor. Good evening, Mayor, distinguished members of the Redding Consortium. My name is Kevin Kelly, and I'm a product of the city of Wilmington. I've been in the city my entire life. There are very few people who understand the neighborhoods, the education, the political, and the way of life in the city of Wilmington as I do. I wore my Wilmington High sweatshirt because 50 years when I graduated from Wilmington High, the busing plan began. 1978, it was implemented. And the single biggest impact that we've had on the city was not the rise, was not 95, it was busing. And as Senator Lockman Elway puts, this fragmentation of our students and trying to figure out where they need to go. My son was bused to Kirk, Glasgow, McCain, and Dickinson. And same lives in St. Mark's. He may got 2 days of vice president at the bank now. But in the city of Wilmington, we spend far too much time on crime. We worry about crime every day. And we know what the crime is? The students in the city of Wilmington not being able to go to schools within their neighborhoods, in their district. You can't measure fragmentation. You can put everything you want up on there, but that intrinsic value of that mother raising those children and that person who's trying to learn how to speak English in the city, you can't put a price on that. I worked in government for 60 years. I was a pretty good damn manager. Ray will tell you, knew what was going on. There's a lot of variables. We put more money in teachers. We put more money in after school programs. We put resources everywhere. But you know, we haven't put resources in trying to redistricting plan. We tried it 20 years ago when I was on city council. The river plan was the same one. We're back here, Ray. 25 years later, back again. I support the river plan. There's 2 options in there. I can explain that, you know, option A and B. The one that has students south of Brandywine in Red Clay and north in Brandywine. The legislation says we're to have no more than 2 school districts, and I'm fine with that. But if this group decides to have a single time, I would tell you this. Get your battle gear on. It's time to defend the kids in the city of Wilmington. And we're not going to take no for a damn answer anymore from anyone until we get this. I'm very quick cuss it. We get this right for all of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly.
Thank
you. Trippi Congo.
Right.
I would like to invite any of my colleagues from City Council who would like to join me on the podium. At the podium, City Councilmember Hackett, Councilmember Johnson, Councilmember Owens, and Councilmember Spadola. If you'd like to come up, please do so. when I saw that former councilman Kevin Kelly was speaking, I was hoping that somebody had a mute button because I know he can get pretty passionate. But good evening, everyone. My name is Trippy Congo, president of Wilmington City Council. We represent roughly 73,000 Wilmington residents, including more than 11,000 K through 12 students. As you prepare to decide on the best educational approach for the children of Wilmington and their families, I would like to take this opportunity to express my and many of my colleagues' support for the Northern Newcastle County District model. It is time for us to finally address what everybody already knows. We need to stop beating around the bush and finally push toward a real solution for Wilmington students. We have too many low-performing schools in the city of Wilmington. I'm not going to spend your time reciting rankings and numbers because the families living this already know it. I want to be clear about something. This does not reflect the potential of our children, and it does not reflect the dedication of so many educators who show up every day. We have heard the same things again and again for years. At this point, we know what the ingredients are. But if we're being honest, the outcomes have not moved the way they should have. In some areas, our kids have fallen even further behind, and that's unacceptable. Over the last 50 years, Wilmington has seen an attempt after attempt at education reform, and yet we still have not seen the kind of lasting, fundamental shift in student outcomes that our kids deserve. Here are the truths that keep showing up, the ones we all know, but the ones we have not fully acted on. Wilmington students are fragmented across 5 districts. Fragmentation hurts performance and progress. Wilmington does not have meaningful direct representation and the tools to oversee and advocate for the education of Wilmington children at the level needed. We say we care about quality, we measure quality, we talk about quality, but we still allow it to get pushed aside. Every child in Wilmington and across Delaware should have access to a quality education, no matter their zip code, income, or what's convenient politically.
Thank you, Councilman.
Any governing body that has the legal authority over K through 12 education should be held in clear performance standards, and there should be consequences when those standards are not met.
Thank you, Councilman. Your
Thank
time
you.
is up. Thank
Thank
you. Dr. Chris Curry.
Good evening. My name is Chris Curry, and I am not here as an activist, neither am I here as a pastor, in which I do pastor one of the largest churches in the city of Wilmington, but I'm here as an educator. Of my 5 degrees, 3 of them are in education. I'm extremely disturbed that I came to Wilmington 20 years ago, and they were already in a 10-year fight to help our Wilmington children. Then I had the opportunity to see what happened at Brandywine meeting. It was egregious. It was horrible. They said the quiet stuff out loud. They don't want our children. Our children are trash to them. It's time to get rid of these systems who have viewed our children as nothing. While I really didn't support any of the 3, I am very much in support of one school district with a strong superintendent who can bring a true understanding that all children can learn if given the appropriate resources. I am of the opinion that we have to do something. It's been going on for 30 years. One of the parents got up here tonight and said, go back to the drawing board. That's all we've been doing for 30 years, going back to the drawing board. We have to make a decision, and we have to get in good trouble. And we cannot continue to allow people who have a few dollars, like Brandywine. I said it, I'm here to represent it, and I'm not taking it back, to dictate to us that our children in Wilmington do not deserve better. And I say to this whole consortium, all of you who are here, the politics is over. stand up and be counted. And because I have no political office I'm ever looking to go into, stand up and be accountable.
Thank you.
Because
Dr.
at this point, it's time to think about the children and not these people who are just racist. And I said it.
Thank you, Dr. Curry. The next member of the public who has signed up to give public comment is Jason Heller.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jason Heller. I'm the proud president of the Brandywine School District Board of Education. As I've said many times, I genuinely believe that everyone involved in this process is motivated in their heart by what they believe is best for children. And where there's a difference is not with intent, but in the tactics we believe will get us to the goal. For example, I've heard repeatedly that we just need to do something. And I would respectfully offer that doing something simply for the sake of doing something isn't necessarily responsible government. I believe we have a moral, ethical, and legal obligation to spend taxpayer dollars deliberately, thoughtfully, and based on evidence of what's going to improve things for children. We have a responsibility together to ensure, at least with a reasonable degree of certainty, that there will be a return on our investment for kids. I recognize that this body is required to move one model forward tonight, and I appreciate the assurances from Senator Lockman that additional data will be developed before a final proposal advances to the state board. That said, based solely on the information available in front of us today, the social drivers report, the cost report, I believe the only option, if a choice must be made, is the model in which Brandywine and Red Clay retain their individual identities in the existing boundaries sub-option. It's the lowest risk option for taxpayers, communities, and especially students, and it causes the least disruption for our kids. In the absence of credible evidence that a higher risk model would produce better outcomes, which we have not seen, option 3, I believe, is the only path that we can responsibly move forward with tonight. Thank you all for your time and service to the community.
Thank you. The next member of the public who has signed up to give comment is Monica Moriak.
Good evening. Thank you to the Redding Consortium and all the members for the many years of work that you have put into this. I am Monica Moriak. I am the current president of the Christina School District, and I have followed this for years, seen all the data and the plan, the data that have come forward from the analyses, the social drivers, the analysis of spending, those type of things. We've not seen anything like that in the many other versions of this same iteration that we have done. And I have changed my mind multiple times. One thing that I have always been clear on is the most important thing is to consider student outcomes and what's best for our children in the city of Wilmington. And there is in no area that you can argue that fracturing a city is a good idea for its community, and its children are going to be part of that community. In that case, I think when you look at the costs, when you look at the social drivers, you need to realize that a full northern Newcastle County, and honestly, I think it should be a full county-wide, or we should move APO into Kent, this having to qualify northern Newcastle County. But anyways, we can start there. It's clear that there are social drivers show that the city of Wilmington, the county of Newcastle, and the state of Delaware need to do a much better job of those social bringing stability. But this project will bring some stability. And as a member of the Christina School District, I'm here to support this in any way that I can. And I believe my board is on board with that.
So, Helen Anderson.
Everyone, I'm sorry. I would have been up here if I would have known. My name is Helen Anderson. I'm the daughter of the late William Hicks Anderson. And so I just thought it was appropriate for me to say something, as I've been saying something at all of these meetings. It's not about cost. It's not about how much time you needed to figure out if we got out there and told the public everything that was going on, because we can always choose not to take the information in that you don't want to hear. It's definitely not about adults. It's all about children. And until everybody in this room, everybody that's going to cast a vote, puts children first in your decision, we're going to continue to have these conversations, continue to be in these rooms, and continue to be disappointed. Children are being failed. They cannot read. They cannot get livable wage jobs when they leave here because they cannot go to college. You had the president of UD say he can't accept many Delaware graduates. And if that's not disappointing for you all, I don't know what to tell you. Our children should not be failed. From Claymont to Del Mar, we're failing. We're not going to act like it's just the woman's problem. We're just the ones that have to be the most vocal because our children are getting hit the worst. It's happening. Our failures are our failures, and we need to own them. When Swartz made that decision in 1978 and then in 1980, those decisions were made under duress. Those decisions were made because we were not doing anything. Inaction says a lot. We cannot continue to allow children to be failed because we don't want to do the right thing. Each one of you will cast a vote that will either make a great difference in children's lives or continue with status quo. And I would hope that each of you have enough integrity within yourself and want to go to sleep at night thinking that the children that you are impacting on this decision are going to be better 20 years from now. The room will look different. The conversations will be different because of what you say today and what we'll take to Dover and what we'll talk to every elected official about in this state. I won't say which one. I just want it done.
Thank you. Mike Matthews.
Hey there. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Matthews. I'm a teacher in the Red Clay School District. And first and foremost, I am a product of busing. It worked for me. It worked for thousands of us. And unfortunately, it was struck down in 2000 by the Neighborhood Schools Act because some communities didn't want their kids going to school with kids from the city. So let's put that out there real quick. I do want to clarify something. A charter school leader said something a few minutes ago about salaries being leveled up. While the state of Delaware, through the Public Educator Compensation Committee, is working to improve salaries, there are still very great salary differentials among the 5 northern Newcastle County school districts. And I think that is what the cost estimates are in reference to. State funds 70% of our salaries. That's what the PEC is going after. The other 30% are our local property taxes. And as we know, there are some grave differential there. I am here. I've already given my public comment, my very long public comment elsewhere. I am in support of the Northern Newcastle County plan, if only because we cannot continue to have a fragmented city. That has got to be a foundational philosophy of the work that this group does. No other model besides, I believe, the metropolitan model and the Northern Newcastle County model leaves the city as whole. And this city deserves to have a full seat at the table. Being fragmented for 40 years with school boards that are completely fragmented, the city has had no unified voice. That in itself is a product of very real systemic racism that this state has got to reckon with. Nothing is going to change if we aren't willing to change. I know that we need to go big. It's going to slay some sacred cows in the room and some leaders who may not be leaders after all this is said and done. But we got to put kids first. This is the way to go. 16 years in Red Clay. I love our schools. I love our kids. Let's do the big thing.
Thank you. Councilman Owens.
Good evening. I only have 60 seconds, so I'm going to get to it. There's moments in life.
Excuse me, sir. You have 2 minutes, actually.
Oh, okay. 120
Sorry.
seconds.
Yeah.
There's moments in life where people, when neutrality isn't an option. When silence becomes consent and delay becomes denial. This is such a moment. The question before Redding today is not merely what districts should assume the responsibility of our schools, but a deeper question on where we as a community are finally prepared to confront the educational system that has broken the backs of our most vulnerable students. For generations, we've asked Black and poor children to be patient while structures have failed them. We have studied their suffering, commissioned reports on their pain, and debated their futures in rooms far removed from their lived reality. Meanwhile, the opportunity has remained uneven, resources unequitable, outcomes unpainfully predictable. But this is not accidental, this is systematic. Redding was convened because the status quo has proven to be morally and academically indefensible. We can't repair this moment with half measures and cosmetic changes. We must choose a path that offers stability, scale, and capacity to deliver immediate academic support that also creates conditions for long-term justice and achievement. For those reasons, I'm here to say I support the Northern Newcastle County School District as the option that y'all should recommend tonight. But let me be unequivocally clear that this is not just an endorsement for business as usual. This is a demand for transformation. If we are to move forward with this Northern Newcastle County District, it must be explicit that we commit to holistically investing in the children and who have been harmed the most by decades of neglect, and children who have attended underserved schools, navigated trauma without adequate support, and measured by standards that's not designed with them in mind. History teaches us that access alone is inefficient. Brown versus Board of Education was not simply about sitting in the same classroom, but it was about access to quality, dignity, and possibility.
Please finish your thought, Councilman. Thank you.
This investment includes schools that are fully staffed with culturally competent educators, robust mental health services that recognizes the weight of generational trauma, curriculum that affirms identity, history, and humanity, and wraparound services that engage families as partners, not obstacles.
Thank you,
Please
Councilman.
vote for the Northern Newcastle County District.
Thank you. The next person is Day Woods. Just a reminder, I'm happy to bring the mic to you if you wish, but I wanted to provide the opportunity to stand in front of the council. So is there a Day Woods? Okay, Lisa, it's either a T or a J, or it's probably a P. Lisa Power. Yep, that probably is right. Who signed up as Salita Cherry. So if you would like to give comment up at the podium, please feel free to head that way. Otherwise, I will bring the mic to you.
Hello. Hi, everyone. I'm a teacher at AI Middle School, and I'm speaking as myself tonight, but I'm very concerned with the academic abilities of our kiddos in classrooms. But working with kids every day, I know that resources are limited, class sizes are too large, and our parent involvement is low. I also know that when parents are involved in their children's education, students are more active in their academics. When students do not go to school in their communities, then it is hard for parents to be a part of the school culture and events. As teachers, we are taught to teach the whole student. It is hard to do this when we don't know or learn about the communities that students are from. Our students deserve more. If we have been to a public school play, if you guys have been to a public school play or a basketball game or a talent show, like come to the talent show at AI Middle. They are brilliant. I grew up in New York City, and I went to a public school and a middle school, especially, that did not have the best reputation. The crime rate was high, but I was taught by a Spanish teacher that spoke 9 languages. I also took a music class that got me out of a college course. So I think our students can really excel if we give them the opportunity. I am for a Northern Newcastle plan because, again, like I said, I want to be part of my students' community, and I want their parents to be part of our school community. It was heartbreaking today because a student came up to me and said that she didn't think she had the academic ability to become a nurse. And I had to tell her that I had the faith in her, that she should have the faith in herself. And I think our community needs to have the faith in our students because they will meet and excel the standards that we provide and we give them.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Salita Cherry. I'm a Wilmington parent and the president of MASK, Mothers Advocating for School Kids. And thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I'm here because the decisions being discussed tonight will directly impact Wilmington families and the educational future of our children. Tonight's agenda includes deliberation and a vote on remaining redistricting models. At the same time, Delaware is also moving forward with changes to the state's education funding formula. These are two major system changes happening simultaneously, and many parents are only now beginning to understand their scope and long-term impact. For many Wilmington families, access to clear information, consistent communication, and meaningful engagement has been limited. Parents care deeply about their children's schools, but work schedules, childcare responsibilities, and limited media coverage make it difficult for families to stay informed and involved in real time. When decisions of this magnitude move forward without broad community understanding, parents are left feeling that changes are happening to them rather than with them. What Wilmington parents are asking for is not a specific outcome tonight, but a transparent process. Families need clarity about what happens after this vote, how community input will continue to be gathered, and how parents will be supported through any transition that may follow. Our voices matter because the long-term effects of redistricting and funding changes will be felt most directly by our children, our schools, and our neighborhoods. I appreciate the work of the Redding Consortium and the opportunity to share a parent perspective this evening. And I respectfully ask that Wilmington families remain central to this process as it moves forward. And MASK will continue working to ensure parents are informed, engaged, and prepared to participate as the process continues. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else in the room with us that wishes to provide public comment? If you do, please feel free to raise your hand. I can bring the mic to you, or you may go to the podium if you wish. Would you like?
Hello, my name is Loretta Wilson, and I find it very interesting that those of you who are trying to hold on to your district zoning are doing so because you know that there is a fragmented system. And the fact that it's more important to hold on to the district as opposed to supporting the Northern Newcastle process is kind of shameful, because we should be considering what's best for all of our districts. And if we do the Northern District process, Northern Newcastle, then it kind of levels out the education field across the board. At least we can feel like everybody's going to get the same quality of education. And that's what we're here for, to ensure that our children, all of them, are getting the same quality of education. And we already know that that's not going to happen. And the thing that bothers me the most is we just built the $84 million school. And if we move to that, who gets access to this $84 million school? Because surely it won't be our children who are suffering the most academically. So I would really support the Northern Newcastle process.
My name is Michelle Succi, and I actually teach in that $84 million school. For most of you that know, I actually grew up in the city, came from biracial parents. I grew up my entire life on West Side, wherever Kevin went. He was a problem. And I now teach at both Bayard and Pritchett. I am the talented and gifted teacher for elementary. I'm going to put a different perspective that nobody has brought to the table tonight, and this is my perspective on this. I am not in favor of Northern Newcastle County, not because I don't want what's best for my kids, because I want what's best for my children, who both grew up here, were taught by Red Clay, and my grandchildren will as well. I don't want Northern Newcastle County because I don't want my kids in the city of Wilmington to get lost in an even bigger pool than they're already lost in. Right now, I can barely get teachers in the door. I am covering classes and things. Every single person, I'm going to give you a charge. If you're sitting in this room and you are not already in education, you can do what I tell every day. Every council person, every city, where's Trippy? Every city council person, come into our classrooms, not for a day, not for a visit with a big photo op. Come in for the day, come in for a week, come in for a month, and work with our kids. Sit down with our children that don't have that stability at home. I bought over $200 worth of uniforms just today for a child. That child, when going into northern Newcastle County, and it's one of four, our piece of Wilmington is going to get lost. It's going to get lost just like it happened when we consolidated and we wanted to make sure the voices were heard. We don't even have a representative on our board for the city of Wilmington anymore in Christina.
Tess, is there anyone else in the room who wishes to provide public comment? I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone. Is that a hand? Yep, of course. I can bring the mic to you.
Trying to sit down. You guys, I am so tired. I literally just got off my flight from Houston. But hey, y'all, Thea Lopez, civic leader, North Wilmington, Brandywine School District proud alum. I think I've had the same conversation in various rooms over and over. And a lot of times we keep having the conversation about cost, data. But we aren't really thinking about the true issue. And it's our kids are failing. That 50% at Brandywine School District is horrible. At Bayard, it's even worse. And I think we really need to frame that. We already understand what the problem is. Why can't we focus on what the solution really could be? Even at Pritchett, we already know structural problems require structural changes. And I really wish that that could be the focal point of the conversation. And most importantly, I feel like years ago, when we were having the same conversation with Brandywine School District, we were focusing on like the Rivers model, and they were totally against it. And maybe if they were partners in this and really wanted to work with us before, that we would really be in a different place. And I really want us to really focus on doing our part and understanding that structural problems require structural changes. And let's keep that at the front center for our kids.
Anyone else in the room who wishes to provide public comment? Okay, thank you. Haley or Elena, we can move to those online who wish to give public comment.
The first person that signed up virtually was Sean Mitchell. And then we have to unmute you. Sorry about that.
Hello.
Sean Mitchell.
Hey, how are you? Hi. I'm not sure how all this redistricting is working, but I hear a lot about the children. I work with children. I've been working with children for years, and part of this, I don't hear no accountability going towards the children. Um, I know a lot of good teachers. I know a lot of good superintendents. I know a lot of good deans, vice principals, and all that. And the kids, a lot of times, don't do what they're supposed to do when they come into the classroom, right? So that's a problem no matter where you look at across the board. I understand that they want to change education, and you do have to change education, but the kids also have to be willing to learn. They also really have been willing to be disciplined and accept structure. And a lot of times we're not focused on that part of the situation. The other thing I need to say is, as far as being in the school, the kids are with us 7.5, maybe 7.5 hours a day, and TikTok has them the other time. Outside has them the other time. So it's always going to be an uphill battle because we only have them like 1/4 of the day. But as we continue to do our best and improve education, we have to make sure that the kids have some accountability in that, because at the end of the day, you can have two kids in the same classroom. One chooses to fail, the other chooses to learn. Okay. So that's part of it. I don't want to keep blaming the teachers and the schools, saying that, they're not doing enough. I see a lot of teachers and staff bust their behind every day, being disrespected by kids, being talked down to by kids, and talking to kids. So that starts at home too. Okay. So if they're allowed to be adults at home, then they're going to come to school and think that they're those same adults. That's the other part. The other part is, when we start talking about putting these schools together, we better be concerned about safety. You have problems right now with people who live on the same side of town. So what about those kids who are the odds against that lives on several different parts of town, who you're going to try to bring together? That's it. Thank you.
Thanks. The next is Matthew Morris.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to let me speak. I want to begin by acknowledging the core concern behind this process, which is valid. Children in Wilmington's lowest income neighborhoods face serious challenges and deserve access to high quality education. However, it's important to be honest about why outcomes are struggling. The research, including the consortium's own social driver analysis, shows that factors like poverty, housing instability, chronic absenteeism, health needs, and mobility play a significant role in student performances. These are real barriers, but they are not solved by changing district boundaries. At the same time, there is a clear issue of governance and accountability. Despite significant planning funds and multiple subcommittees, the public still lacks clear, measurable deliverables tied to student outcomes, clear lines of responsibility, and transparent reporting that shows what is working and what is not. The AAR fiscal analysis further shows that the district consolidation of this size is unlikely to save money and may increase recurring costs, particularly through salary equalization and inherent maintenance obligations. That means we risk shifting financial burdens to taxpayers without addressing the root causes impacting students. What the evidence supports is a different approach, a Wilmington-focused improvement strategy that keeps districts intact while directly targeting early literacy, attendance, high-dose tutoring, strong school leadership, and target teacher retention, all paired with clear accountability and public performance metrics. So my request to the consortium is this: pause any move toward consolidation, strengthen governance and accountability structures, and focus resources on evidence-based interventions that address both academic needs and the social drivers affecting the students. Structural reorganization without accountability.
Oh, thank you. You reached 2 minutes. I don't know if we should. Thank you. The next is David Fagnoni. He's up here. I got it.
I got a little bit of a family emergency, so I got to be quick, unfortunately. I'm also a product of busing, and I loved it. So it's been disappointing to hear people talk about it as if it was the end of the world. I'm just going to skip a lot of what I want to say before any of these plans is considered, the state needs to rethink how it funds schools. Sorry, a lot going on here at home. Mainly, we need to put a cap size on by academic level, and we need to create a level of classes below college prep. The state has age band ratios, but that doesn't equate to class size limits. We have college prep classes where you have 27 kids in them. 12 of those kids often will have IEPs. College prep, if you're not familiar, is the level below honors classes. It's disproportionately filled with kids from low socioeconomic status backgrounds that we know require more resources, and more funding to help them achieve. So you're asking the districts to take on more kids from low socioeconomic status backgrounds that tend to be more likely in these college prep classes, where your inclusion kids are, where you have 12 kids with IEPs, and the solutions usually put a second adult in the room, a special ed teacher. But I'm telling you right now, simply having a second adult in the room isn't enough when you have 12 IEPs and a class full of kids from disadvantaged backgrounds, where oftentimes those two things intersect and where a lot of your behavior issues happen. Other states around us have actual class size limits in their state code, and the state needs to be looking at that before they even think about approving one of these options. Otherwise, you're just putting out fires on one side of the classroom while new ones start on the other side with these class sizes. We also need a level below college prep. Inclusion is an awesome, great thing, but every teacher I think can speak to you and tell you in college prep classes, we see kids that it just moves too fast for them. Not only just kids with IEPs, but general ed students as well. Bring that level back so kids can get an education at the speed that meets their academic needs and abilities. And that's all of this is to say nothing of the impact that charter schools and private schools and VOTECs have on our public school districts. So please change the way the state funds the schools. Thank you.
Hey, Matthew Morris, we're going to give you another 15 seconds. We really apologize about getting muted. It was not on purpose. Just finish your thought, and thanks for putting your thought in the chat as well. Oh, I see. Sorry, we need to.
I'm not exactly sure where I got cut off. However, my request was that we pause any move toward consolidation to strengthen governance and accountability structures and focus resources on evidence-based interventions that address both academic needs and the social drivers that are affecting our students. Structural reorganization without accountability will not deliver better outcomes, but transparent leadership and target action will. Thank you.
Thank you. Jenny Howard.
Good evening. My name is Jenny Howard. I am a former teacher in the city of Bloomington and a parent of kids in the Red Clay School District. As you vote on one of the three plans tonight, I just wanted to highlight what remains missing. Even the consortium's discretionary recommendations don't require enforceable reform of charter, magnet, and VOTEC admissions. There are no timelines or accountability mechanisms to ensure exclusionary practices actually change. Selective admissions, counseling out practices, and conditional transportation continue to function as gatekeepers. Transparency is also lacking because families can't see the acceptance and denial rates, transportation denials, or withdrawal patterns. This information is necessary to understand who's being excluded and why. Fiscal equity is also unaddressed. Colonial's Wilmington students will move to other districts, while Colonial will potentially keep the industrial tax base, creating structural inequity. Finally, governance matters. Charter and VOTEC schools are publicly funded, but governed by appointed boards, not elected ones. And none of the consolidation plans clearly answer this question. Which plan guarantees that the city of Wilmington will have a representative voice on the newly created school board? Consolidation must address exclusionary practices, transportation barriers, fiscal fairness, and democratic governance. Without that, it won't fix inequity. It's just going to reorganize it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thanks. I think that was the list of folks who signed up in the chat. Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment online? Please raise your hand. Seeing no further public comment, the public comment session has ended. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone. All comments and the effort it took to make them are very much appreciated. We are now going to transition into the facilitated portion of our meeting. And I don't know, well, everyone can take breaks as they need them, obviously, but I'm going to hand the floor at this time over to Angela Perry, who you may recognize from our retreats. And Angela, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Senator Lockman. Good evening, everyone, again. So I'm Angela Perry, Fourth Dimension Leaders, and I'm here to sort of shepherd us through the deliberative process of this evening. So just a couple of things before we get started. For consortium members, if you require any paper information, there are some items up here. You have all of these, you've had access to all of these, but if you need them, if you need any further, there's the AIR report and some of the initial reports that you've gotten throughout this time. As we enter this next phase of discourse, just please remember that there are a number of voices and perspectives, audiences, various interest groups, and emotions that are central to this discussion, as you've known, as you've heard. And so while there might be many who sit on different sides of a solution, it's just critical that we proceed with respect in this next portion. Respect and honor the thoughts and contributions of folks in the room, okay? One other thing before I get us started sort of discussing this. So consortium members, most of you whom are appointed by virtue of your position, have been given a mandate by the General Assembly to develop or set forth a proposal for redistricting. It is members' statutory duty to participate in the exercise of that authority. Just want to make sure that we are clear there. What I'd ask consortium members to do really quickly is just take maybe a minute to yourselves. And if you grab a Post-it note, write in your journal, because I'm going to ask you to share. We're going to just go around the room. I'm going to ask you to share your inclinations, where you are now, what model you are leaning toward, and your rationale. You'll get about 90 seconds to do that. And if there are questions after you speak from other members of the body, we'll moderate that. So just take about a minute or so now to yourself. Here are the questions that I'll ask you to share out in just a moment. Where do you currently sit in terms of your selection of the model to advance to the next phase? What are your reasons for that selection? Just take about a minute or so now to think through that. Okay. Mayor Carney, I'm going to start with you. And again, what you all are being asked to share, voting members, what's your selection of model? Where do you lean right now? And please provide your rationale. I'll give you about a minute and a half to do that. And Mayor Carney, when you're done, can you pass to the next voting member?
So as I've been saying since I joined the commission several weeks ago or months ago, any of the options that we're voting on tonight would satisfy me. I think that, and that's because the status quo with our city kids being bused down to Newark. I drove over the weekend, I drove to Newark from Browntown and Hedgeville on the west side. It's about 20 or 25 minutes, depending if you're going to Christiana, Glasgow, or Newark. And so it takes even more longer to get there, to get to a JV basketball game. And that's just unacceptable. And if you look at the distances out to McCain and Dickinson, if you're on the north side of the river, instead of going to McCain and Dickinson, which is about 7.7 miles or 7 miles in 15 or 20 minutes because of the lights that you have to go through. Mount Pleasant and Brandywine are right up the road, 5 miles away, and you can get there in 10 minutes, depending on the lights and the bus stops that you have. So my bottom line is we got to pick a solution. We got to pick an option that can pass the General Assembly, pure and simple. And I know everybody's getting on board for the countywide option. And I just don't think it's got a chance in the General Assembly. And that's why I'm going to support the river plan. I'll support any of the three plans that are successful, hard. But I believe, and by the way, I picked up this book. Many of you, in fact, our current co-chair was a co-chair of this group as well. And chapter 7 had to do with redistricting. And it said we ought to focus on the orderly and minimally disruptive option. In that case, it was all the kids from Christina, which is the main objective, would move into red clay. And it went all the way through, got approved by the districts and by the House, and failed in the Senate. That was my time up. I'll support any of the three, but I think we have the best chance with the river plan. Thank you.
Darrell Green, Superintendent of the Red Clay Consolidated School District. Thinking of I almost said a rap lyric, thinking of a master plan. For those that know, they know. Going back to what was previously discussed, that 69% of the students in the state are non-proficient in math, 54 in reading. And we're discussing governance and not necessarily children. And so as I sit here and think about, ideally in the perfect world, yes, having been in education now for 27 years, having the opportunity to have led and lived in both the experiences of busing and Neighborhood Schools Act, we're failing all the children to a large degree. And I'm saying that as a superintendent of the largest school district in this state. And I've been wrestling the past week with how to recreate what I was able to do as a principal. And how do you do that on scale? And while long-term, a consolidated school district from a governance structure may make the most sense, but I'm wrestling with what makes the most sense for children. And trying not to bias how I wake up and approach my work each and every day, but how can we collectively wake up and approach the work on behalf of children each and every day? And I have a unique experience that I've worked in all 3 school districts. I taught in Christina, was an administrator in Christina, worked in Brandywine, worked at the state level, and now I'm in Red Clay. And so there is no easy answer, but I think we got to be grounded in what's best for children. That was 90 seconds? Oh, goodness gracious. So I think a combination of a Red Clay Brandywine makes the most sense. It's just what combination of the two are we discussing?
Oh, good evening. Ray Jones Avery. I just want to say that I was in 2000, the Honorable Mayor James Sills asked me to chair the Neighborhood Schools Committee based on HB 300, which was really curious because I was one of the loudest opponents of the neighborhood school. So I know what it's like to sit on a legislatively appointed commission and have a lot of divergent views and have a really complex charge. It has already been stated that that the Wilmington Center for Education, Equity, and Policy that I represent, along with Lynn Howard, that we have done our homework and we are advocating that Wilmington, City of Wilmington children be in one system. Now that can mean a lot of different things, but that we are resolute in that position. There are merits for the river plan, some, but we do not believe that that is the best plan. We just do not believe that is the best plan. And also the notion that parents want their children to go to schools closest to their home, that generally that is what parents want. But when parents are given a choice between proximity, geographic proximity, and higher quality learning environments, they will choose a higher quality learning environment, without fail. And so I will pass the mic. Yes, at this time, yes.
Thank you, Ray. Tika Hartsock, and similar to, while I'm the parent representative, similar to Darrell, I have had the opportunity to work in 3 of these 4 districts, and specifically within the last 5 years. As a parent and even as a parent advocate, my option is for the Newcastle County one. For me, it aligns not just resources, but I also happen to work as an educator, and my child attends one district, I work in another, our calendars don't align. Many of my days are used taking off to cover days when he's off. I've lost pay for this. And there's other families that I've had conversations with that had similar barriers by having children in multiple districts and the conflicts that arise from that. Speaking with families, I've spoken to numerous families in and outside of the city. I've also spoken to many of my fellow educators and colleagues about what some of the options are. The perspectives that I have come across are varying, not even just from different affinity groups, but across the board. I've sat and listened to a ton of public comment and in many meetings where I've heard a lot of comments that have given me pause and concern. I'm going to encourage a lot of members to, if they have not read a book called Color of Law. Specifically, if you look in chapter 10, it speaks to Delaware. And when we talk about these social drivers and how we should handle that different, there's a very specific reason why we got to where we are today. And again, I would point people back to that book. When we discuss the options, I also have, well, okay, I'm going to wrap that up with saying, so sorry. I just want to conclude with saying my opinion is for, like I said, the Newcastle County, Northern Newcastle County District. However, I do hear people's opinions in regards to the Brandywine Red Clay option, and that being the most feasible and possibly the easiest to get across. Those are the reasons why I would not see that as a viable option, because there has been conversations I've had with people that what makes that the easiest to get across is the exact reason why we should not do it, as well as the cost for it. I do want to point people back to not the AIR report that we are referencing today, but the AIR report that came out about how we are drastically underfunding education for students in the state. Thank you.
Thanks, Nika. My name is Jeff Menzer. I'm the superintendent of Colonial School District, and I'm in support of the river plan. And one of my main drivers for that thinking is when I look at Brandywine and Red Clay, I see 2 strong districts operationally, programmatically, as well as academically. They are functioning at a high level. They're constantly getting acknowledgement, accolades, and recognition for their programming. So for me to, move the ball forward in a seamless fashion, as Mayor Carney pointed out, in the least disruptive manner, is to go with those two districts to support the students in the city of Wilmington. I think they also have the capacity to build the community feel that I'm hearing throughout the comments. I'm familiar with the districts. I've been in Colonial for 35 years. I've seen and watched those schools in their communities develop and grow. The pride that those communities have for their schools is no different than anyone else. They have the ability and the capacity to bring anybody into those environments. So I feel that given that, I would go with the river plan.
Good evening. My name is Simone Silver, and I have had the opportunity to do my dissertation on policy reform initiatives impacting Wilmington students over the past 25 years. And although I'm very aware that theory is greatly different from practice, one thing that's led to inertia has been the lack of political will. And although I know that the river plan would probably lead to the best political will to do something, the Northern Newcastle County model gives Wilmington students durable access to the same district level resources, opportunities as higher resourced individuals. And it keeps the equity lens alive, and it keeps the Wilmington students together. So yeah. Newcastle.
So good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Tompkins, and I am with the Metropolitan Wilmington Urban League, which is an affiliate of the National Urban League, which is one of the oldest civil rights organizations in the country. And so this evening, my vote will be cast to Northern Newcastle County School District, and simply because it is the most equitable for our children. You know, Frederick Douglass says it is easier to teach and invest in children than it is to repair broken men and women. And so as a civil rights organization, certainly we are in support of, again, a Northern Newcastle County School District. And history has taught us that when children have the proper resources and they have the most chances and certainly the most access, they do succeed. And so I believe this choice, which may not be perfect, is a step towards justice.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just want to remind, mostly for those online who are not sure, this conversation taking place right now is not a vote. Angela has asked the members to go around the room to share their inclination and where they are planning to vote, keeping in mind that a discussion will ensue and minds may change, but please just know, for those online especially who can't see what's happening in the room, this is not a vote. This is merely a discussion that hopefully will lead to a vote. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Joseph Jones, Superintendent of Newcastle County VOTEC. Sorry, my back is to much of the audience. It's my 30th year in education. Just give a brief background for context. I went to Glasgow High School. I student taught at William Penn. I taught at Newark High. I then became assistant principal of Christiana High, where I was Officer Wilson's assistant principal. Then I went and transferred to Howard High School as an assistant principal. Then I became the principal of Del Castle Technical High School, and Councilman Hackett was one of my students there. And then from there, after Del Castle, currently now the superintendent. I give you that just to put in context that as a 30-year educated lifelong resident of Delaware, I think I understand public schools very well, especially high schools. I realize my story is not representative of everyone in this room, everyone in this county. I too was bused, and I personally have benefited from that. If I wasn't bused to Bancroft, I would have never had Maurice Pritchett as my principal. If then at Newark High didn't teach Danielle, Mr. Pritchett probably would not have taken a liking to me and knowing that I was teaching his daughter. From there, he took me under his wing, and under his tutelage, he taught me quite a bit. He taught me mostly about community. Anyone who knows Pritch knows the East Side, and the community was everything for him. I share all that because one thing he taught me was that relationships, investments, and stability are primary factors in what we do in our schools. Tonight, we've heard a lot about fragmentation, but fragmentation is just not geographic. In fact, I would argue it's far more a leadership issue and a coherence issue. So with that, I vote for the river plan. I have faith in that plan. I do think it's the most viable option. It was mentioned earlier about kids being lost. There is no empirical evidence to suggest the other plans would be more successful. And at the end of the day, even with the river plan, I want to be abundantly clear. This has been said multiple times. If that is the end point, it will fail. It will fail. We have to do more for our students. The investment then has to occur. I wish we weren't at this table. Quite frankly, if nothing changes, it'll same result that happened in Christina School District. Thank you.
Good evening. Ray Fitzgerald, Wilmington Housing Authority. I'm supporting the Northern Newcastle County District. One, I think having a single district model is best. I think models that still are breaking up students in the city is not the best approach. Also think the Northern Newcastle County model seems the best option financially for the city. And there's been some mention of folks mentioning that, we need to prioritize things like state changes, state funding changes, and using evidence-based practices before we do any of this redistricting. We can do both. We can do the redistricting, and we should also pursue those avenues. It doesn't have to be either or. And like I said, if there's been talk that the single district model won't pass the legislature. Well, if it doesn't pass, then we default back to the other one if it comes down to it. So that's how I look at it. So thank you.
Hello, Aaron Bass, and my vote is for Northern Newcastle District. I do want to say that with all the conversation, none of this matters if we're not actually focusing on leadership. If there's no structural changes taking place, we might as well have just said we've wasted 5 years on the Redding Consortium. And this shift we need to make is actually in the interest of our children, looking at structural changes that will engage with community, that will actually look at resources outside of our schools instead of blaming every teacher for every reason the student has not read, knowing the fact that we have communities that should actually place more emphasis on workforce development, on housing, also on mental health. And when we sit back and we only focus on the people that are in those buildings teaching, we've already done a disservice to all of our educators. And so with that, we also need to make sure that we are moving forward with going big, because my fear is that if we don't take a big swing, we're going to end up having the same systems we've had many years before and have the same conversation 20 years from now.
Okay. Man, okay. So it's been a really long road. Oh, say that again. Oh, is that better? Oh, my name. Hi, sorry. My name is Tizzy Lockman. I'm a state senator. I'm co-chair of this body. And as I was saying, we have, it's been a long road just as Redding, and a longer road, in all the other forms. And we've been hearing a lot of inputs, particularly in the last couple of weeks. And as others have said, it's been a lot to take on, and it's a huge decision to make, even though it really is just the beginning of our process. We take very seriously all concerns that we've heard, whether it's fears about disruption, cost, transportation, staffing, community identity. But as many people have already said, we have to be very honest with ourselves about where we are and how we've gotten here, and that the current structure is not working for too many students, particularly in Wilmington. And we've had decades of incremental fixes and targeted improvements, so-called, and all of that investment in a broken and fragmented system has yielded the results that we see. We have not delivered equitable outcomes, and I think that the moment calls for something much more than another incremental fix. So I will also be supporting a Northern Newcastle County model. I think it's the only option that meaningfully and fully addresses structural fragmentation. I think it also addresses fiscal instability at the heart of the inequity that we've experienced regionally, With a small city divided across multiple districts, charter systems, governing bodies, different rules, different funding streams, programs, accountability, which was brought up in the comments. Fragmentation is not neutral. It determines what students have access to in terms of critical resources, and that's what we've been experiencing for too long. We've also heard fears about the tax base, and I think to do anything other than the Northern Newcastle County, I think maintains and perhaps aggravates that tax base volatility, which makes long-term planning nearly impossible and turns, almost every necessary investment into a crisis. We see that now with our referenda that we struggle to pass. Northern Newcastle County, I think, can create that broader, more stable tax base. It can also align governance and responsibility to allow us to plan regionally, to reduce duplication, a lot of the other good things that we've heard in service of our students who have not received what they've needed, and all students, which I think we can agree could be doing better. What I don't mean by favoring this plan, I don't think consolidation will solve poverty, housing instability, violence. We know schools can't do this work by themselves. So any implementation that we pursue must be paired with serious state investment in early childhood education, other types of services. That's our intention, to talk about that as part of a plan. That's why we asked for the landscape analysis to help guide our way. It also doesn't mean ignoring concerns about class size, transportation time, disruption for students with special needs, disruption for typical students. And we know we must now address these issues deliberately in the design process with educators and families at the table. I'm so glad that people have come to the table, and I hope they stick with us through this now deeper process. So for me, it's just that the other options leave too much fragmentation in place, asking communities to absorb disruption and tax-based risk in the case of the other two options, preserving instability, not delivering structural change. So I think if we're going to ask people to endure upheaval and change, we need to do something that's worth it. This model gives us that best chance, and however heavy the lift, to build a system that will be financially stable, structurally coherent, capable of serving all children, not just some of them. Something that will be sustainable. Doing nothing or the minimum, I think, would be easier, but it would also mean accepting outcomes that we already know are unacceptable. So I'll wrap it up. This is why I support this model. And I look forward to developing a plan that fully explores its possibilities.
Sorry, real quick for those online, Senator Eric Buxton, Margie Lopez Wade, Councilwoman Cabrera, and Maria Matos. I'll come to you after we've gone around the U.
Thank you, Angela. Matt Den. I am trying to model good behavior, but I am going to take more than 2 minutes. Probably because I wanted to take 1 minute to recognize our co-founder and co-chair, Senator Lockman. We have had an interesting holiday season. The first 2 weeks of December, we went to 6 community meetings in the course of 12 days. And a lot of people came out to those meetings with questions and comments, and the vast majority of them were sincere and helpful. Some of them were not. And I was there too, but most of the ire from that much smaller group was directed at Senator Lockman. And she rose above all of it, as she always does, with extraordinary insight and grace. And that's really no surprise to any of us around this table. But I think at times we take her leadership for granted, and I just wanted to recognize it publicly. Having said all that, I will now proceed to respectfully disagree with her. I think any of the 3 models that we're looking at are better for children than the status quo. And no matter what the outcome of tonight's vote, I'm going to put my head down and I'm going to work with all of you to put together a really thorough plan that can be approved by the legislature, and that's going to help the kids that we want to help. And as those of you who have participated in these meetings on an ongoing basis know, and as you heard tonight from people like Theo Lopez and Kobe Owens, tonight's decision is just one small part of our work, and we will have miserably failed in our work if all we do is put together a districting model and not put a plan together around that includes the type of school level supports that we've been discussing for months and that AIR recommended. But no matter what we do tonight, I'm going to be there to help put the best possible plan together. I do think the model we should build around is the model that was the focus of our discussions up until about a year and a half ago. And that's the plan that has Brandywine and Red Clay remain distinct districts and take over responsibility for educating all students who live in the city of Wilmington. And let me just explain quickly why I think that's a preferable option. Two primary reasons are this option accomplishes all the goals that we set out for ourselves 18 months ago. And it also does have the greatest chance of actually being approved by the General Assembly, something that has eluded us for a quarter of a century. We said that we wanted a plan that would remove Christina from the city, that had no more than 2 school districts responsible for educating city of Wilmington students in order to create sensible and compact and contiguous districts. And this plan does that. I think it has just as much potential for stable funding as either of the consolidation plans do. Stable funding would basically require a 1-sentence statute by the General Assembly guaranteeing state funding, just as the General Assembly does now for the unit count and for opportunity funds. And this model, I believe, can't pass the General Assembly. There are children who are dependent on us getting something done now. Someone at one of the meetings Senator Lockman and I went to said, why don't you recommend what's best for children instead of something that the legislature will approve? To which my reaction was, what is best for children is something that the legislature will approve, because we have learned, unfortunately, over and over again, that the legislature is more than content to let recommendations in this area just sit on the shelf. Those are the first 2 reasons. It accomplishes our goals that we stated. It can actually get done. Third is, it is by far the least complicated. And it is really complicated to merge entire school districts. Lots of little things and some big things inevitably go wrong. And they are very disruptive to the schools and the students that we want to help. Is it possible that we can, through the very careful planning that we're going to do, minimize the risk of that happening in a consolidation model? Absolutely, that's possible. And I'll be part of that effort if that's the direction that we go. But why take the risk when there's another model that accomplishes what we want to get done? Very last factor that I'll mention, Angela, and then I'll stop. Okay. 15% of the students in our schools have disabilities. And we got a memo last Friday from the Governor's Advisory Council on Exceptional Citizens, which is the statewide group that represents the interests of students with disabilities. All of you have the memo. And it didn't recommend one plan over another, but it did say that the modified river plan presents the least transitional risk to students with disabilities, that the Red Clay Brandywine consolidation option added an additional layer of risk, and that the countywide consolidation option, and I'm quoting from it, was viewed as the most complex and potentially disruptive for students with disabilities. These students are uniquely vulnerable, and we need to have their interests in mind as we make our decision, no matter which of these options that we choose. Bottom line, we need to do right by these kids. I have enormous respect for all of you. I'm going to work side by side with you to get done whatever comes out tonight. I think we need to do something that's going to get approved and that's going to work for the kids that are counting on us.
Representative Nnamdi Chukwucha. I'm very solid in my heart in the Northern Newcastle County Consolidated District. I'm greatly appreciative of this conversation because it has helped me be more grounded in that decision. Because I as a legislator, I remember being a member of city council, and I remember being down Legislative Hall for WIG and being there for testimony and wanting to have the opportunity to argue on that floor about what's best for our children. I know then we were talking about the Rivers Plan, and there is inherently in the Rivers Plan some inequities and some challenges that, unless we're talking about a new Rivers Plan, not the one that has been presented, I mean, totally shifting, not just one of the districts accepting the majority as was presented in our 2 books, but really something drastically different, even going as far as to say, where we have Wilmington High School again or P.S. DuPont High School again, something different than the Rivers Plan. I think it could be a conversation. I think the sense of the northern Newcastle County is the one to me in terms of the common tax base and how it provides the greatest level of equity and opportunity for equity for all of our students. And to me, this my second option, which I would say a step back from, would be the metropolitan district. I believe that is a strong way. I believe it's less disruptive. I believe that it can combines two districts that, as has been noted around the table, that they have the opportunity. Some have the space, and some have this going for them. And but I think that there's two districts together into one district. We do want one. If we had one district, that would be my option. Besides Newcastle County, would be the metro, and then my least favorite would be the rivers, because I don't really see the opportunity for it to have true change in terms of equity unless we're going further in terms of the Rivers plan than what was presented previously.
Good evening. I'm Deirdre Joyner, Superintendent for the Christina School District. The first thing I'll say on behalf of Christina is that we love our schools, we love our kids, our families, and our staff. We want what's best for them. And so while none of the options include Christina, you can count on us to be a partner to put kids and families first. I am Wilmington. I went to these schools. My family and I are the kids we're talking about tonight. And generations later, my family members still attend these schools. I've been wrestling with each model. The real work, to me, the real solution is about breaking down the pain points, the barriers, and the systems that complicate school improvement. I even served as interim principal at Pritchett for most of the year last year. I know the triumphs, I know the challenges, and I know what they need. I've been in Christina for 30 years, and I also know that we can't legislate our way to proficiency. Therefore, if we're going to remove Christina from the city, it makes sense to give the two remaining districts the opportunity and resources to continue the work they know they can do. Brandywine and Clay. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Danielle Tier Woods. I am a school leader within the Red Clay Consolidated School District. I'm also an aunt of a new kindergarten student that is also within my district. I'm an educator with 14 years of experience, including my 5th year as a school administrator, where I've taught and worked in private, public, and charter schools. And I wholeheartedly believe in students first while supporting our educators as well as our families. And this must continue to be at the center of our work. And I'm glad to hear so many people sharing that. And if we want different outcomes for students, I do believe that we must be willing to do things differently. I've had the opportunity to work along several transformative thinkers and leaders within my journey, and to be a part of a community that is actively doing transformative work is needed for where we are to go next, especially within the city of Wilmington. And of course, a more detailed structured plan with voices like those that we've heard over the years need to continue to be at the table. Additionally, I do appreciate the opportunity to hear so many different perspectives throughout this journey, and even leading up to tonight. While I do hear thoughts on Red Clay as well as Brandywine, I do believe that one truth does remain. What's easiest is not always what's best for students. So I'm leaning towards Northern Newcastle.
Good evening, everybody. I am in favor of the Northern Newcastle district. I am an elementary school principal at Coomba Academy Charter School, and I work with students here in Wilmington every single day, and I am their advocate. I'm the advocate of students, teachers, and families, and I believe that when I read over the Northern Newcastle plan, I believe that that is the most equitable plan for our city. As a resident of the city, a new resident of the city of Wilmington, I believe that this plan will help our schools be better, have more access to resources that may have not have had the opportunities before. I'm probably the newest resident of the state of Delaware here at this table. And so these are just my fresh eyes for what I see happening here. And I just believe that as a school leader and as a resident of the city, a one district model would be the best option for this city to move forward. Thank you.
Kendra Brown, parent representative, special needs inclusion educator at Stubbs. My status is Newcastle County. I went back and forth between Newcastle County and Wilmington for the last month or so. And if you know me, that's the only question I probably asked you. So, so like the kids say, 6'7". Put it in the air, but let's look at 6'7". There's no gray area in between 6 and 7, right? So even with me saying I want to go to Newcastle County, we have no chance for gray area in this plan. The gray area is failure for our children. So let's just keep that in mind, right? So another scenario I have is we failed together for 40 years, right? So why can't we rise together for the next 40? There's no reason why we should include any of us out of this process. We all did this together. We all failed our children together. So we need to fix the problem together. There's no reason to say this person's doing better than this person's doing better than this. No, the state of Delaware is failing their children. That is the fact. That's the fact in all the papers I'm reading. That's the only thing I see. I cried when I opened this, and my students had to ask me what's wrong, and I had to let them have some time to themselves so I can have some time to myself, because I couldn't even teach our kids today because these numbers disturbed me. Do y'all sleep at night? Because I'm the youngest member on this board, and I think I am anyway. I cannot, I don't sleep at night too well. For the last 60 days, I have not slept past the hours of 2 and 5. And I'm not going to get spiritual on you, but my spiritual people know what that means. Something's not right. And if we can't fix this together, then I'm moving out the state. And don't ask me to come back, because I'm not coming back. I'm going to a state that cares about their children. And I'm going to tell my child to go to a state that cares about their children, because I care about my grandkids are not even here yet. And I don't know too much I have to say past. We failed our children together. Point blank and period. Do not hide to fix the problem, because you can't hide these numbers. You cannot hide 93% are below standards. 93? 84? The numbers are not too much off, no matter where you go. It's unacceptable. Point blank and period, and it disgusts me, and I don't even have nothing to say no more, because if I do, I start cussing. Next. Yeah, it's moving me, so I'm
Good evening, everyone. Lisa Lawson. I am the superintendent of the Brandywine School District. I too have spent 29 years proudly in public education, spent about a decade each in each of the 3 districts, began teaching in Red Clay, was able to move to Christina to serve in a teaching capacity as well as an administrative capacity, and now I'm in BSD. I will say that, and BSD is where I will finish my career. It is a very unique community. It is a proud community. And there are even times after having been there a decade where if you didn't grow up there and go to school there, you can often feel like an outsider. And there are days still when that can possibly happen. And so perhaps the opposition that is being stated tonight is really passion. And it is a passionate group of people who are just seeing lines being redrawn without any other proposals or guarantees on the plate. And I think that's what's difficult. And just because we disagree on a path forward as to how we support the children and families of Wilmington does not mean that we don't care or that we don't want the best for every child. And so this has been a very difficult conversation to listen to. With all that being said, every single one of the models is challenging because it really is just redrawing lines. And we've already admitted that by doing that, that's not going to move the needle for kids. And so, again, difficult to put something forward when there are no other guarantees or promises, along with really just upending folks, including our children and families in Wilmington that are struggling the most. So just changing their logo to a blue circle or a red house isn't going to do anything for families. With that being said, our community is very much against consolidation. That's very difficult for us to get on board with. And as our board president spoke earlier, we are open-minded about a conversation around, there are 3 sub options to option 3. We haven't really talked about all 3 of them or analyzed or navigated through any of them. So I will leave that there.
Stephanie Ingram. I am a 4th grade teacher. I'm the president of the Delaware State Education Association. As a leader of the state education union in Delaware, I represent members in each of the districts that will be affected by the choice made by this esteemed group. Understanding that I do not represent just one constituent group, as many around the table do, I'm still yet undecided about which of these plans should move forward. I look forward to hearing and participating in the facilitated discussion that we're embarking upon tonight. But ultimately, whatever this group decides, DSCA stands ready to bring the efforts of educators to the development of the plan that best supports our students and provides them with the best social, emotional, educational resources, investments, and outcomes to enable them with the best and necessary success for their future.
Okay, to get our final voting members, I'm gonna ask them to be unmuted online. Margie Lopez Wade, if you're ready, please go ahead.
Thank you, Angela. So I came to the meeting not sure which way I was going to vote. So I will say that listening to the public comment has definitely brought a thought to my mind, which is when we talk about putting students at the center of our decision, 2 of the 3 options puts Wilmington students in a situation where they're the outsiders. They're being forced into other districts. They have to carry the burden of integrating into these 2 other models. The only option that truly treats all students as one equally is the Newcastle County School District option. I find it interesting that we have individuals that are now behind the river plan, the option of red clay and Brandywine, which is the oldest option that has been recycled for over 20 years and was not able to build traction because people were opposed to it. And now, because it seems to be the one option that is more favorable.
I don't think so.
Hello, Angela. Can you hear me? Angela, this is Margie Lopez. Wait, it popped up on my screen to unmute myself, so I don't know why I got that request. Did did you hear my comments or do I need to repeat them? I can't hear you. We can't hear you, Angela. The room has been muted.
For everyone who's here.
There you go.
That was terrible. This is where we are in this conversation. It's quite charged. This conversation is not separate from the country that we all live in. It's not. So we can't pretend. So we'll proceed. Apologies for the Zoom bot to me and everybody else. Let's continue. Margie, can you just start back in the middle where you were? You have the floor.
Okay, it was not allowing me to unmute. Thank you, Angela. So once again, my vote is for the Newcastle County School District. I came into this meeting not knowing exactly how to vote, but I do believe that the other two options puts the burden on our Wilmington students to be the ones that have to assimilate, have to integrate. They're the ones that have to be the outsiders, having to come into the fold of a new district. And the Newcastle County option is the one that does treat all students the same and really is the most disruptive, but it's disruptive innovation. And sometimes it's going to have to hurt a little bit in order to have an impact. Thank you.
Thank you, Margie. And our apologies again that you were interrupted. Senator Eric Buxton, are you ready?
Are you there? I'm not sure that I've been trying to unmute and the host
We
wouldn't
can
let
hear
me.
you.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Let me get started. My name is Senator Eric Buxton, Kent County Republican State Senator Eric Buxton. I say that only because as a Kent County and assigned to this committee, I valued my role and I did actively attempt to participate seeking clarity. I mentioned the fact that I'm a Republican because while I'm only one vote, when this decision does make it to the Senate floor, I'm sure that I'll have influence or at least have something that my colleagues on my Republican side will want to hear. So what I was hoping to do was to understand better and then hopefully gain clarity in the direction that I would be joining folks in. And I failed. Quite honestly, I have. I appreciate the comments that are being made. And I'd like to share a couple thoughts. Number one, before I get going, the group, if there's anybody new to this conversation, anybody that's weighed in late, respectfully, all I can tell you is that the group that I've worked with over the last months and years more, whatever, I just think that they've been outstanding in their attempt to get this right, especially the leaders, Senator Lockman, Matt Den, and others. I really believe in the mission, although at the end it's gotten itself real complicated. I think there's merit in what Mayor Carney said, Matt Den said, although I do appreciate the folks who followed up, like Namdi. So I think there's a lot going on here. I am uncertain as the position that I'll go into. In fact, I may go not voting and wait to take up the fight of the mission in the General Assembly. But I'll end with this. I'm concerned with the costs. I'm concerned with the time frame if we implement the Newcastle County model. I'm concerned with change that doesn't produce change. And I'm worried about how that makes itself, how this implements itself, how this ends up working out. I was a 30-year educator. I'll end with this. A 30-year educator and coach. I've been up and down this state. I've been in every high school in the state. I've been in a lot of middle schools. And what shocks me in the year 2025 is the disparities in the facilities and the technology offered to some of our students, especially in the old, what I call the blue hen. conference, athletically speaking. And I know this is going to provoke a conversation, but my biggest problem that I see is that we've got too many schools and not enough students, and that somebody needs to make the very serious, difficult decisions to close a few of those traditional high schools, consolidate the students so that you have the resources, that you have the means to produce the triggering mechanisms that build new schools and new facilities that will produce some of the results you want. But I'll leave with that because I know that's a little misguided or off base. I just want to say thank you for your opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Senator Buxton. I'm going to call on Maria Matos and Councilman Cabrera, and then I'm going to pause to address the harm that was done. Let me get the rest of them first, though. Okay. Matos, are you ready? Okay, we're going to move to Councilwoman Cabrera. Okay, Maria Matos, you have the floor. Go ahead.
Okay, finally I was able to unmute. I couldn't unmute. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Good, go ahead.
Anybody? Anybody? Can anybody hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for answering. Well, you know, that was downright childish, whoever did that. Anyway, you know, I've been around in the city for a very long time. And ever since we were desegregated, the city children have been fragmented everywhere, anywhere, but in a place where they belong. You know, especially my English language learners. You know, it's my belief that it would be they would fare better if we do an economy of scale, and instead of having them scattered all over the places, well then you have to scatter the limited resources. If you concentrate the resources and concentrate the children, I think they would do better. You know, I think I agree with a lot of my colleagues here that say the equity is what our children need. We've been fighting for equity and we will continue to fight for equity. You know, some people talk about orderly and less disruptive. For who? Not for the kids. It's for the adults. That's who's less disruptive for, or orderly. You know, we're not talking about the kids when we're talking about less disruptive. Kids are they're like sponges. They adapt to whatever you put them. So we're not talking about being orderly or being less disruptive for children. We're talking about the adults. You know, let's use the resources the best. Let's address the children. What's best for the kids? And you know, doing the same old, same old. I mean, Brandywine couldn't even vote. She didn't even take a vote. But the thing is, yeah, it's a little harder, like Margie says. Yeah, it may take a little more time, but it's our kids. And if we continue with the same old, somebody said, you know, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. Well, I'm for the hard part, and it's that Northern Newcastle district because it will provide an opportunity to merge those resources together. We won't need 4 different superintendents, and we can use that money for our kids in a better way. So my vote today and when we vote for real will be for Northern Newcastle District. And I will be a leg haul pushing the legislators to do something about it, because it's ridiculous that we have 19 school districts with very little kids. Thank you very much.
Maria. Councilwoman Cabrera, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. Can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, please. Yes, please.
Yes, you can hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go right on
Okay,
ahead.
great. Thank you. All right. So first, I was leaning for the Metro model, smaller and focused. I felt that would be better. And that the challenges, I also understand the challenges mainly for resources with just that model, especially for the additional services needed for children with special needs and language deficiencies. I wanted to keep it smaller, condensed, so we can really focus on improving their education. Then I had detailed conversations about the Northern Newcastle model. And it's not my first choice, but sounds like a better choice with resources than keeping city children in one district. Understanding, as has been mentioned, our children are struggling all across our state, not just Wilmington or just Newcastle County. Sussex has its shares of challenges as well. Many of those are social drivers of inequity and accessibility to resources all across our state. But I know our focus here today is Newcastle County. I also spoke to a colleague and a friend whose opinion I respect, and a key issue was brought up, not just the vote tonight, but the support from our state legislature. Which model will be the most palatable, if not the best choice? Bringing change slowly may be more acceptable, and we can make more changes as we go along. As elected leaders, we're often tasked with doing what is best for the greater good in spite of our strong personal feelings. We need to choose a model we can get approved. It's a daunting task to make this choice, but I have been tasked with helping make this choice. I think of the man whose seat I now sit in, hoping and praying I can do right by him, our beloved Theodore Blunt. I think of what would Ted do? We know Ted. Did he ever back down from a battle? Nope. Not from the time that I've known him, and not when it's the right thing to do, even if it means more work. Let's do a better job sharing with parents in our community, the educators with whom we task with teaching our children. From what I'm hearing, there are still too many people who feel they're just hearing about this. Even though the work has been conducted, even though this has been discussed publicly and in media, sharing with leaders, community, and parents, there are still those who didn't know and feel they didn't get to participate. For that, my apologies. We must and will do better. We hear you. We cannot delay taking action, but hope we can come together with all of the community to support change. We can't go on with the status quo. It's not working for all our children. I am that person who will choose the road less traveled, and maybe Northern might have an uphill battle, but it's the one I'm willing to undertake. We must come together and reach out to all parents so that they can come together and throw voices and be heard. That's whom the legislator needs to hear from, and their voices should influence their votes, not just ours. We will organize. Though not on the ballot, what we should be doing is condensing the school districts and pumping the money savings into our schools. 19 school districts for a state this small, I will keep saying it, and if I sound like a broken record, then let's do something about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And finally, Ayana Khan, are you ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Ayana.
I think you're breaking up a bit, Ayana.
For can you hear me?
We can hear you, but you're breaking up a
Can
little
you hear
bit.
me?
Yes, go ahead.
So I'm gonna keep it short. Northern Newcastle. No.
Ayana, just to be clear, did you say Northern Newcastle? Okay. Now, there's no real sort of easy way to do this in this room of this size in this kind of meeting. But it is important to address what happened. That's quite harmful. I do want you to maybe just take 30 seconds and go back to that really disruptive, terrible moment. Take stock of how you felt in that moment. Take 30 seconds now, take stock of how you felt in that moment. For folks online, we had a very disruptive moment. I'm not sure if you heard. There was quite egregious, racist, terrible epithets raised by likely a Zoom bot. Please take 30 seconds. And if you heard that, put in the chat how you felt. If you didn't hear it, you can just hear our debrief here. Thank you. When and if you feel moved to share in this room, in the spirit of community healing, because we experienced that together, feel free to share how you felt. I'll start. I'm not shocked or surprised, but it hurts. My job was to facilitate through this. I'm a Black lady, so I'm just going to keep moving. But I wanted to cry because it always hurts. Anybody else like to share how you felt in that moment? You can just shout it out. You don't need to cry. This way, because we're always supposed to pretend that it doesn't hurt and that it's not a big deal.
That's okay. Like you said, as a Black woman, you're just supposed to keep it moving and not stop and take the time to actually address that it does hurt to have those words being said for whatever reason. And I'm glad you're taking the opportunity to let us talk about it. Because you're going to go home, it's going to sit with you, you're going to keep perseverating. I know I do. I'll perseverate on it. And why are people like that? I said to Lisa, happy holidays to all of us. I mean, like, what would move someone to do that? But here we are in the United States.
I think my spirits have protected me because I went to the bathroom, so my ears didn't hear it. But but all I can say is get ready, because that was a little fraction of what's about to be presented to us. So get ready, stay ready, and be prepared. And don't let stuff like that hurt your ears. Close them. Because it's going to happen again and again and again and again and again. I'm almost numb to it. I become black all my life. You see my skin complexion? Right. Black, charcoal, char, whatever. But I'm still here at the table. So that's all that matters.
And I'll be quick. James Baldwin said, to be Black and conscious in America is to be in constant state of rage, confusion, chaos, and we are here. But again, this is why we need to have more people at this table. All last week, for the past 3 weeks, we kept hearing folks say, where have we been? Why aren't we aware of what's going on? Where what's going on? And we need to do what we need to do to make sure that we are heard, that we are supported. Because again, if we don't do what we need to right now for our kids, we are going to be paying for it again in the future.
And I'll just add, I refuse to allow bigotry and racism disturb my peace. It's a Tuesday. I'm going to keep moving and I'm going to keep fighting, and I will not let that disrupt my day at all. And also, especially online, because you would never say it to my face.
I just want to say something real quick. Having gone to multiple of this meetings, I just want to echo exactly what Mr. Den said about Senator Lockman. She has dealt with a lot of nonsense in the last few meetings from this, and that's just another demonstration of nonsense that has happened.
I was going to say frustrated to, pick the one word, but it is, I guess because of that, we've talked a lot about our process and how long we've spent doing this and how we've attempted to be respectful and serious. And, that kind of nonsense just sort of, it is what it is.
I guess I'm going to be the first white person that stands up. But the fact that there aren't more white people standing up right now to identify the harm that has happened, the fact that there aren't more white people standing up and demanding that we as an education system change. We have to call out racism. I don't care that I've lost family members in the last year. I don't care anymore. I'm done with this nonsense. We have to be vocal. We have to be vigilant. We have to be aggressive, because this is a war that everyone in this room needs to be on the right side of. I'm so disgusted, but I'm never going to stop standing up. So I'm sorry. This shouldn't be happening.
Just want to make a quick comment that comment is a reflection of our history. When I think about Ruby Bridges walking into school and so many people stood there with racist comments just like that, here we are today fighting for the rights of our children, for a quality education, and some racist person felt that it was critical for him to get online for everyone to hear. That only makes our fight stronger.
Thank you. I think also about the ways in which, as Delawareans, we congratulate ourselves on a lot of things. We congratulate ourselves of having not one, but two cases in the landmark Brown v. Board. We congratulate ourselves on being able to say, oh, and yes, we were on the right side of history in as much as that the district wanted to move forward and wanted to allow schools to integrate. It wasn't, we were just moving forward to make sure that we can make the progress and everything was legal. But that happened in 1954. We have to look and ask ourselves why it took 24 years. We heard a lot today and in the past couple of weeks about the 78 busing change when busing started in 78. Why did it take 24 years if we were on the right side of history? It's because people didn't want to move forward. Because even though we had done this work and we were passing legislation, the districts, the legislatures did not want to have to take in the Black children. And here we are right now, still dealing with the issues of not wanting to take in and take care of the Black children. We have to call it out. We have to name it. What happened was ugly. It was awful. It was terrible. But you know what? I felt that same energy last week at the Brandywine School District meeting.
It wasn't there. Senator Eric Buxton, go ahead. And then Margie.
Hey, friends. So the offer was to weigh in on the comments made, and I've listened with great intent. What I'll tell you is a couple things, and I know that this is going to challenge some thoughts, but it is what it is. That was a deliberate attempt to provoke us to get into this space and divide us. That was not a reflection of white Delawareans. I stand here as a white 60-year-old male, and I reject the premise that I and folks like myself are standing in the way. I am doing everything I can as an individual, as a leader, to support progress in any form or fashion. And the fact that a bot, and if you don't know what a bot is, then look it up. A bot is able to circumvent, jump into this space and hijack this meeting is not I don't know how to describe it, but it is not a reflection of where I stand and the many people that I know that only want to do what's right. And I understand that that might challenge some thoughts, but it is what it is. I have a right, and I want to at least offer them up as a thought. What I'll say is this. I'd heard someone come on earlier that said that Delaware is failing our students. Delaware's not failing our students. I believe we had the leadership in place, especially with our supers and our district leaders. We have turned the corner, and we're going to be headed in the right direction. But if we don't get our communities and our parents to become engaged and involved, there's not enough that we can do. And I can say that and at least offer it up, not saying that I am right, you're wrong, just saying these are my thoughts. So I'm disappointed that that bot won, only because the bot is allowing us to divide, and I don't want to divide. I don't. I stand in full support of the folks in this group, regardless of color. Thank you for your time.
Margie?
Angela, somebody else had made the comment. I just want to just reinforce what Eric said as well. I mean, that was a bot, so I don't let a bot hurt my feelings. But let's be real that what really should be concerning are the comments that were made at some of the board meetings that were definitely racially charged. Those are the things that caused me pause. Those are the things that concern me. Not AI. That doesn't pose the same threat. So I think we need to be aware that the reason we are where we are is because of that undercurrent of racism. We need to acknowledge it. And so thank you, Angela, for giving us space to address it.
Of course. I do want to just acknowledge that there are a number of comments on the chat. We see you, those of you in the chat, there are hundreds of comments in the chat decrying what occurred and people sharing how they feel. I can't address them all, but thank you so much, President Congo.
All right, thank you. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't shocked. I think it just, for me, it was confirmation. Confirmation on why we're even here this evening. Confirmation on why we're not talking about a Wilmington school district. Confirmation on why there is so much resistance and hesitancy around sending something to Dover to elected officials where they know they won't support Wilmington. Like, why would we support or vote for a model that isn't best for Wilmington because of the fact that we're sending it to elected officials who may not say what they said, but they think. And I guess I challenge elected officials.
You around tomorrow?
If you say that
I
that's
gotta
not
jump
you,
my car, see if I can get it
that you
started. I
vote.
gotta get it to the mechanic. I don't. I'm gonna get it back. Hold on, one minute.
Go ahead.
So again, I mean, it's just confirmation of why we're here. I'm not shocked. I just would ask for those who can make serious change for the children. I'm speaking on behalf because I represent Wilmington. Like, prove it in the way that you vote for this model, for a Wilmington only model. We can educate our own children. We have finances to educate and provide schooling and education for Wilmingtonians. Where we can make Wilmington an education destination. How come we're not talking about that? Because we know that the legislature would never support it because the majority of Wilmingtonians are Black and brown. So again, it's easy for elected officials to say that's not me. I'm just asking us, because I'm also an elected official, to prove it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll pause us here. There's a couple of other things to do. I want to thank you for engaging. If you're a quieter person or you didn't know what to say or you didn't feel like speaking, that's okay in this setting. But I encourage you to speak up when you're out here. This is actually probably the realest discussion we've had in this consortium after that happened. So let's really sort of talk about those things. I want to acknowledge the secretary before we move on. And then Namdi, I'm going to close with your words before we transition.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say thank you to Senator Lockman for your leadership and the whole consortium and what you've been doing. I'll let the governor's words speak for themselves. He opened our meeting with his thoughts, and starting with gratitude and ending with gratitude that this is hard work, and sticking with it and having the hard conversations are always the best path forward to do the right thing for students. And anything that divides up kids, I think, is something that we need to consider if that's going to be harmful to them or what will be most helpful. We focus on outcomes, we focus on students, we focus on getting the work done.
Thank you. Just acknowledging again the governor's cabinet. Thank you for being here. Okay. I'm going to give the floor over to Representative Chupocha.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Anamdi Chukwocha. I am the representative for the First District. I am a lifelong Wilmingtonian, and I've devoted my life to the service of our youth, their families, and our Wilmington communities. As a founding member of the Redding Consortium, I'm compelled to speak on the urgency and the gravity of the decision that is before us. The issue of school redistricting in Wilmington is not a new conversation. In fact, it's the longest experiment ever, an ongoing challenge that has spanned decades and negatively impacted generations. Since 2001, no fewer than 5 distinct committees have been stepped forth and convened. They have studied this issue and reached remarkably similar conclusions. I've been a part of 3 of them, and there are some members around the table that have been a part of all 5 of them. In 2001, the Wilmington Neighborhood Schools Committee, led by Ms. Ray Jones Avery, provided a very grave warning that if the Neighborhood Schools Act was implemented, we would in essence be creating a city full of racially identifiable, high need, high poverty schools. And that's what we have before us. That's what was stated before the implementation. So we can't say that it was unintentional. It was very intentional. The report recommended also a metropolitan school district, combining the city of Wilmington with Red Clay and Brandywine to create a common local tax base. And yet no action was taken. In 2008, former State Senator Margaret Rose Henry led the Wilmington Education Task Force, and they recommended adjusting the boundaries by assigning students east of Market to Brandywine and those west of Market to Red Clay, while eliminating Christina and Colonial districts from serving the city altogether. No actions were taken on those recommendations. In 2015, the Wilmington Education Advisory Committee proposed streamlining configuration to improve responsiveness to the committee, again suggesting the removal of Christina and Colonial and allowing Red Clay and Brandywine to continue serving the city. And yet no actions were taken. In 2016, the Wilmington Education Improvement Commission, or WIC, reinforced this path, recommending that Christina School District cease serving the city of Wilmington and focus on its western portions, and altering the boundaries of Red Clay to absorb those students. No actions were again taken. Most recently, in 2019, the Redding Consortium for Educational Equity was created to recommend policies for achieving educational equity and improving student outcomes. The consortium's primary charge, as mandated by the state, is to address this very same redistricting issue. In May of 2024, Redding approved its interim recommendations with 3 key provisions. 1, that Christiana School District would no longer provide educational services in the city of Wilmington. Secondly, that the city would have 2 or fewer district partners. And lastly, we gave ourselves the 18-month timeline to develop a redistricting proposal. This is what has brought us here to where we are today. Some voice concerns that this process is happening too quickly, that they were uninformed, that there are too many questions that aren't answered, or that it will simply cost too much. But look at the history. Roughly every 7 years, a new group meets and comes to the same general conclusion repeatedly. The recommendations are not seen through. The cost of inaction over the last 40 years is far greater than the investment needed now. The more people who are kept out of the educational opportunities, the less safe and prosperous our Delaware communities are. In this case, Wilmington and its surrounding Newcastle County communities. This broken system is failing our children. For the past 47 years, I've lived in this broken system as a student, as a teacher, as a school and community-based social worker, as a parent, as a neighbor, as a civic leader, and as an elected official. I've seen this brokenness firsthand, up close and personal. I've witnessed the failed education policies predict and determine my children's future. I've seen children that we failed villainized. Black youth simply showing up to school and are labeled gang members. Sadly, I've seen this narrative so widely accepted that Time Magazine and national media outlets started calling my city Murder Town, USA, where seemingly we count the murders till Christmas, not the days till Christmas. This system is broken, and we're living in a world with no rules. where we blame our children, their families, and our communities, but never, ever question the quality of their schools, where so many of our children aren't being taught. They're just tolerated. Our babies are considered to be burdens. No investment in our children. We speak only of costs, which is always just a tad bit too much to bring forth needed changes. And every year, time and time again, with each plan, politicians kick the can down the road because it's too close to an election year. So things sadly remain the same, and there's never any true sustainable change. All that remains is education lawsuits in the Office of Civil Rights Violations. I'm talking about the children behind the court cases, the ones where all you have to do is look in their faces to count their aces. They say putting our children all together would be problematic. It would be bad for our city because of the violence in Wilmington. However, Dover and Seaford also have firearm violence in their communities, but yet all of their students attend one high school. Our city needs unity. I heard the city council president ask, why can't we have a Wilmington school district? Very succinctly, everyone who knows me, that's all I ever wanted was for us to return back to a Wilmington school district. And when I got to Dover, I thought that was going to be the initial charge. But something happened very interesting because so many were supporting me in the Wilmington school district. You realize that they were supporting us, meaning Wilmington having its own school district, because they realized we would never, ever get the resources and supports that were needed to implement it fully. But then the issues would be solely our problem, our concern. This is not about Wilmington specifically. This is about Newcastle County. We all are failing our children, and so often we take different routes. So instead of creating new high schools or new programs inside of empty schools, how about we just focus on creating a more equitable school? This system is broken and these band-aid approaches just won't work. Just won't work. When states have enacted redistricting efforts, student achievement and other social drivers of outcomes have improved for everyone. States like Alabama, Louisiana, New Jersey demonstrate this potential. Let's make no mistake that the current 4-district model is not working for any of our children. Whether it's single-digit proficiency, 20% or 50% rates, these are unacceptable. We are failing our children. Delaware in any subgroup is not performing well nationally, ranking low as 47th in some metrics. We are a part of a national trend toward efficiency and equity. In the 1930s and 40s, there were over 117,000 school districts nationally. By 22 and 23 school year, the number had consolidated to just over 13,000. In Wilmington, with its 11,000 students, is represented by 5 of those districts. Other states like Pennsylvania, Vermont, and Mississippi are currently making legislative moves to regionalize, motivated by decreasing student enrollment and funding challenges. The redrawing of district lines is not the only answer, but is an important first step because it's one of the most powerful policy levers that policymakers can use to determine which states, which students will have access to resources. There is a clear and historic link between increased segregation and increased inequity, which impacts every member of society in the long term, affecting crime rates, workforce development, property values, and public health. This isn't just for a subset of Wilmington students we're seeking to offer Delaware the fullness of its potential broadly because equity truly matters. The financial investment required for redistricting is minimal compared to the cost of 40 years of inequity. The investment leads us to a future where Wilmington will have an increase of educated, employable young people, improved K-8 access that has potential of significantly reducing the high school dropout rates. According to data cited by our own Rodale Foundation, high school dropouts earn $8,000 less annually than graduates and are 6 times as likely as college graduates to live in poverty. Furthermore, stable school districts encourage residential longevity, which is an economically stabilizing factor for any community. While we recognize that there are real questions from the community that cannot be answered at this moment, I think it's vital that we remember just where we are in the process. All we're doing today is selecting a redistricting model. that we will submit for the development of our full redistricting plan. Just as with WEAC and WEIC, our final plan will outline where our implementation related questions that have been captured. This will be thoughtfully, and deliberately addressed as the anticipated shifts happen through our implementation over the next 3 to 5 years. We will get there before it's presented to the State Board of Education, before it reaches the General Assembly. But again, that's not where we are today. The Redding Consortium is the fifth entity in 25 years to attempt to course correct Delaware's history of segregation and inequitable schooling. These repeated stalled endeavors cost time and resources and stall progress. And most importantly, they hurt children. A broken education system produces broken communities full of broken spirited children left with ignored potential and abandoned dreams. History will note that Redding, what we're doing today, has made a seismic difference in having a net impact to shift Delaware forward to a public education system that is positive, and not just the public schools, but also choice and charter, which is also a part of our legislative charge. The pending decision that we make today in this accompanying report will mark a new path, a fresh start for bringing with them a new set of educational challenges and opportunities that come from finally creating a level playing field for all of Wilmington and Newcastle County students. And together we can meet them. I thank you for listening and for allowing me the opportunity to share. Redding is needed desperately because our children demand equity. Our children deserve to be in schools where they feel inspired. Many, such as myself in our city, we view much of the brokenness in our city can be attributed to our school district, this 4-district model, where students don't have the opportunity to know one another. Our city is broken, and it fuels the undercurrent of violence in our city. I firmly believe that us having an opportunity to have a united district will give our students the opportunity to come together, to give our city the opportunity to heal and move forward. I thank all of the members for their participation on our committee. I look forward to doing my job as a legislator in Dover to fight for our city, to fight for our county, to fight for our state, because we can do better for our children, and we must do better for our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. I forget to say the nice things about folks, but I am very fortunate not only to have a wonderful co-chair in this work, but also, Representative Chokocha, with whom, we really co-founded this effort so many years ago, and I'm just eternally grateful for that. I'll think of more mushy things to say later, but for now, I'm getting a lot of nudges that it feels like time for a motion and a vote. So I'm just going to take the liberty. Well, first, I'm going to pass the mic to our Deputy Attorney General to give us again some ground rule or just some information to support that. So, Caroline.
Oh, yes, of course. So there are 25 voting members of the consortium. One of those seats is vacant. So there are 24 voting members for reasons that and more information than you all need to know. The vacant 25th seat is still counted for purposes of a quorum. All that to say, it doesn't change the result. 13 voting members of the consortium need to vote in favor of a motion for it to pass. If anyone wants the legal citation, it is Title 14, Chapter 1008, subsection J of the Delaware Code requires 13 members to vote in favor of a motion for it to pass. And that is all.
Thank you, Caroline. And so now, based on our deliberative discussion and the clear direction that took, I move to select Northern Newcastle County to develop for presentation to the State Board of Education. Is there a second? Okay. Representative Chokocha seconded. So at this time, we would entertain any discussion prior to doing the full roll call. And if there is no further discussion, I will hand it off, I think, to Haley.
to lead us in our full roll call.
Aaron Bass. Ayana Khan. Oh, we might have to unmute her. 1 second. Ayana Khan.
Hi, can you hear me? Northern Newcastle
Yes.
County.
Yeah.
Did you hear me?
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Simone Silver. Should I say yes into the mic? Like so people can hear online. Simone Silver, yes. Danye Woods. Danye Woods, yes. Superintendent Deirdre Joyner. Superintendent Deirdre Joyner, no. Superintendent Darrell Green. Superintendent Darrell Green, yes. Senator Eric Buxton, give me 1 second to unmute you. Senator Eric Buxton.
Not voting.
Abstention. Okay, Senator Buxton, abstention. Superintendent Jeff Menzer. Yes. Superintendent Menzer, yes. Jennifer Tompkins. Jennifer Tompkins, yes. Mayor John Carney. Mayor John Carney. Oh, we didn't. Superintendent Joe Jones. Superintendent Joe Jones, yes. Kendra Brown. Kendra Brown, yes. Superintendent Lisa Lawson. Superintendent Lisa Lawson, no. Margie Lopez Waite. Give me 1 second to unmute you on Zoom. I don't see Margie. Oh, M. Lopez Waite. Okay. Margie Lopez Waite.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry, can you just clarify is the motion the Northern Newcastle County option?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, then I vote yes.
Margie Lopez Waite, yes. What? Oh, Councilwoman Maria Cabrera. Are you doing it? Okay. You should be unmuted, Councilwoman. Councilwoman, we've asked you to unmute. You have to unmute yourself.
I am a yes for Northern Newcastle.
Councilwoman Maria Cabrera, yes. Maria Matos, let us unmute you. It was M. Matos. We're not seeing Maria. Should I move to the next person and go back to her? Okay. Representative Namdi Chukwucha. Representative Chukwucha, yes. Ray Jones Avery. Ray Jones Avery, yes. Ray Fitzgerald. Ray Fitzgerald, yes. Stephanie Ingram. Stephanie Ingram, abstain. Oh, not voting. Maybe Caroline can clarify after the difference between, oh no, maybe not. Sorry, anyway. Okay.
Teron Williams. Teron Williams, yes. Tika Hartsock. Tika Hartsock, yes. Matt Den. Matt Den, yes. Senator Tizzy Lockman. Yes. Tizzy Lockman, yes. Okay. $19 yes, the motion passes. 19.
Oh. Okay. Well, we came here tonight to select a model for, oh, sorry, I will talk into that. We came here tonight to take the action that we've just taken. Now we have a lot of work to do ahead. Matt, would you like to offer any closing thoughts? Those are my closing thoughts. So thank you everyone who's been with us for 3 hours tonight. Motion to adjourn. Any seconds? Yes, okay. Whoa, I got like 20 seconds. Okay. I don't think we need to vote on that. Thank you very much, everyone. We look forward to continued conversation.